there, viewers, and welcome back to the South Main Auto Channel. We are sitting inside the 2005 Chevrolet 1500 Silverado. I believe it's got the big 5.3 in it. We'll find out in a minute. Sounded like it did when we fired it up. It has 106,000 miles on it. It is the big 5.3. The money light is on. He went to the Advance Auto. They told him he needs a new gas cap or a valve thing. Wasn't sure. So he brought it here. We're going to have a look. See what it really needs. Drag you guys along. I'm assuming EVAP code based on the gas cap diagnosis at the auto parts store. We'll let this. We're using the OTC Evolve today. Somebody mentioned it like, oh, that thing looks shiny and new because the screen was so reflective. However, it used to have a screen protector on it and I ripped it off. Okay. The only current codes are the 449 EVAP vent solenoid control circuit. So we've seen this before. That is the one that is lighting up the MIL, or the malfunction indicator light. It has an old history code in it for the transmission range switch, but it is not a current code, so we're going to tackle that P0449. I think we've done other videos on this, so why don't we just pop out of here real quick. We'll go into special tests. We'll find the control for that. Let's see here, EVAP systems. We want vent solenoid. Let me roll up my window. Sometimes you can hear these little guys clicking if they are clicking. Let's pull up a data list so we can make sure that it is. Proceed to load live data. We'll pull up a data list, see if we can pick out of the data list, make sure that the command is actually being sent. And being that it is a control code, where was I going with what I was just saying? I don't know. We're going to assume it's, a circuit code. Let's see. We just want to look at fuel tank pressure also. All right. We will apply those. That's going to bring that up in our data list at the bottom. Our fuel tank pressure is right on at 1.45 volts. That's normal for a Chevrolet. Let's listen. I did not hear it click. I did not hear the canister vent valve clicking underneath. Let's fire this pig up. We're going to take and pull it ahead here a little bit because we're going to have to get down on her. Oh, looks good. I'll shut it off. Key back on, turn the headlights off. We'll leave our tool hooked right up. We'll hop out, we'll go underneath it. We'll grab our power probe. Make sure we've got power on the ground, but not going to be an exciting video. Probably just have a failed canister vent valve. And here we are. There's the canister vent valve. It appears to have been changed before because I see they just got the filter dangling off the back. We're going to take and unplug it here. And we are going to check. Get my power probe set up here. We're going to check for battery voltage back here. And the way this thing cranked over, let's see. Let me shut this buzzer off. Our battery voltage currently is only 11.27 volts, so I don't think we're going to get any beeping back here. We should have a full-time power, and we are at 11.7 volts. Can you guys see that? Obviously there's no beeping because the voltage level is too low. It's interesting, our tip voltage is less. I heard when this thing cranked it was pretty slow. So we do have battery voltage. Now the other one is going to be hooked directly to the ECM, and that is going to be our control. So I got the scan tool here. We're going to pop back into that test. I'm going to stick the power probe. We're going to put it in driver test right there. Okay, so that's going to put a voltage at the tip, and then we're going to turn the driver on. So right now we should not have any beeping or anything going on here on the ground side. On the control side, I'm going to try to hold this in here. I should just go get a front probe for us. So I'm going to hold this in here. Okay, can you guys see that? I'm going to turn it on. It should beep. it's not gonna beep because I got it turned off. Let me turn it off. Okay, so that is our driver side from the ECM. On, off. Okay, piece of cake. And then when we're back here, we can also manually just check the valve. Let me get a alligator clip. It doesn't matter which one we stick it on in this case. Just make sure we're good. Okay, so this is going to give us the ability to check the coil windings here in the solenoid. Let me get this wire holder up. Come on, little guy. There we go. Now we're going to stick the alligator clip in one side, touch it with the power probe on the other. It should beep at us. And then we should be able to just run it with the power probe and make it click on and off. If it was any good, which I don't believe it is at this point, so we're hooked up. And there is no continuity through it. It should be beeping at us right now if the coil inside here was any good, which it isn't, so applying power to it is irrelevant. You know, nothing happens, so. Okay, that's it. Easy peasy. Needs a vent solenoid. Alright, Napper has showed up with the new part. We're gonna take, chop it off! So many of you are probably gonna comment that there is a filter relocation kit, a whole big thing that's supposed to go with this. Now, just so you know, I have used those in the past and I've gone through the whole rigmarole of mounting the remote filter up above the transmission and, you know, following the TSB to the step, buying the $175 kit. I think it was last time I bought one. It was almost 200 beans. Only to find out that, well, 2 years later, the canister vent valve fails just like the old one did. So I no longer use those. I just buy the El Cheapo filter installed unit right here. These are pretty inexpensive to buy, less than $40. And they last about the same amount of time. In our climate, in our crappy roads, you get about 2 or 3 years out of these typically, and then they usually fill with dirt and quit working. So that's that. That is what I'm going to tell you. So I'm going to take, they already had a piece of rubber hose on this one. So we're going to just slip that one up on there. The old shield here is a little crusty. All right, slip that on. We're going to tighten that down. Typically I would just use like a piece of, 5/8 hose here. But being that they already had one on the filter, we're just going to relocate it over. This truck is not long for the world, I'll tell you that. 2005 Chevrolet in upstate New York is only moments away from going to Chevrolet heaven. Alright, make sure that is attached to that hose well. You cannot have any leaks there. And then we're going to take, see how that's going to come. We're going to have to trim that down just a little bit. Which we'll do like so. These are actually battery cable cutters, but this is all actually has my hose cutter right now. Let's see, is that going to be about the right length now? It is. So we will stick the other hose clamp on it, like so. We're going to slip that right on the bracket. Get our hose lined up. There, push her on until she clicks. There's that. The wire connector is exactly the same. I will give you the part number on this style vent valve before we get too far. Is that a flatbed out there? God, always dragging in cars. Let's see. Okay, that's tight. So there you go. Bada bing, bada boom. So we fired up the old Chevy. We pulled her outside so we can leave it running here. We want to go in and clear the code real quick. Let's see here. Continue. First we got to read the codes. clear them? Yes, we are sure. And we're going to go in and make sure it works. Probably should have made sure it worked before we backed it off the lift, but we didn't. Oh, and I didn't show you guys what part number that was either. There we are. Codes are cleared. The money light is out. We're going to go back into special tests in the PCM. And then we're going to select EVAP. We're going to do a purge and seal. We're going to select a couple items here. And what we're going to do is just pull a vacuum on the tank. We want vent command, purge command, and fuel tank pressure sensor. We're going to pull a vacuum on it and then see how fast it decays. So let's see here, we're going to up the canister purge. The vent valve is now closed. You can see we're drawing a vacuum on the tank. We're just going to run it here at 20%. If we get too much vacuum, it's going to kick us out of the test. It's about 3.5 volts is what we're going to go for. Okay, let's seal it off. The purge solenoid is now shut. The vent solenoid is now shut. And we should see a very slow decay in tank vacuum. Now, if we pulled the gas cap off, our voltage would go right to 1.5 volts. You know, if we had a massive leak. And right now, the fuel level is about 1/2 tank. And that is a factor in, you know, how fast the decay is. The other part that's a factor is how warm your fuel is. This is a returnless system. Of course, the truck is cold. Just started it up enough to back it out. Now you see how the graph just went like really quick, where it made it look like it had a really rapid decay. This is one of the other features that I do not like about this tool, is the min-max values on the graphs. They're constantly changing. So it can give you, if you're just looking at, let's say, the overall picture, it's going to give you the false impression, like, wait a minute, what just happened? I wish the min-max values stayed at the min and max instead of constantly refreshing as the screen goes across. It's one of the things on here that kind of drives me nuts about this tool, but anywho, just saying, look at your values. In this case, clearly we do not have a leak. So we're going to take him back out of there. I'm going to show you one other thing. The fuel may not be warm enough to prove this test out. Chevy Thunder. We'll back out of here for a second. In 1 second. Okay, so we're going to go back to the canister vent valve. We're going to select our data items here. We only want fuel tank pressure. Usually the vehicle needs to be warmed up a little bit more to do this, but we're going to shut it off. We're going to go key on, engine off. We're going to close the canister vent valve. I just heard it click back there. And typically when you do this, when it's closed, if the fuel is warm enough, simply by closing the valve, we're going to start to see an increase in pressure in the tank. Now, I don't think we're going to, because I believe the fuel temperature and the ambient temperature is going to be so close we're not going to see a change. But that is something you can do. Works really well in the summertime. You want to know, hey, do I have a small leak? You come out, just key on, engine off, you close the canister vent valve, and typically relatively rapidly you'll start seeing a increase in pressure. Likewise, when it's really cold, sometimes you'll start to see it. It'll actually start pulling itself into a vacuum, kind of that natural vacuum leak detection. I'll let this run for a little bit. We'll see what kind of change, if anything. I don't think we're going to see much. No, in this case, we are not. So we're just going to open the valve back up. But like I said, that is a little test you can do. I think I've showed that in other videos before. If we took the truck for a drive, that certainly would change these test results as the fuel tank warmed up. Well, that's it, folks. Your classic P0449 on your Chevrolet. Super common problem. At least in our climate it is, and I think a lot of it is due to our environment. I get these things in, this fellow lives on a dirt road. A lot of folks around here do, and the filter sucks in all the dirt and junk, and eventually gets into the solenoid, and usually will swell up the plastic on there and crack them. and that's what happens. The solenoid goes into open circuit, and, you know, throws a circuit code and show's over at that point. And like I say, I have installed many of the filter relocation kits. I remember when GM first came out with that service bulletin, you bought their special, you know, little vent valve, you put it back there, and you had to run like 15 feet of hose, you know, up in front of the, I think it was the very top of the transmission, then you mounted the remote filter there. And I did several of those, and it was pretty embarrassing, you know, to have customers come back, you know, 2 years later, 3 years later, and the, you know, the same valve has failed for essentially the same exact reason, and all you did is waste a bunch of time and money. So I started putting those, I don't even know what I get them for. I don't know if they're Blazer or whatever they list them for, those little canisters back there that have the filter built into them. I put them back there, I get the same amount of time, and they are about 1/8 of the cost of, you know, the kit. That's how I do them. You can choose to do them however you like. You can buy it from GM. That's going to come with the plastic hose on it that goes to the charcoal canister. It's likely, I don't even know if they make that one anymore, but it's going to have, you know, that big corrugated hose that they sell with it to, you know, relocate the filter and all that stuff. Again, in my opinion, that's just a big fat waste of time and money. So, and I'm not going to waste any more of your time. Go down there, click subscribe, ring the bell, do all that stuff that you need to do. Find us around socials, patrons, leave your comments in the comment box below. And just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.